Good. Welcome this evening. Welcome to the Next Level Conversation. It's April 22nd. It is 9:37 in the evening, and we have tonight Larry Alpers. Larry, I just want to say a couple of words about you before we get started this evening. Larry is an engineer, a professional musician, I would say a philosopher, a three-dimensional thinker, and also a lateral thinker. And I say that because you were the first, beyond just being a really good friend and someone I've known for a very, very long time, you were the first person I ever met in my life that made me think differently about many, many different things. You were able to take questions I have or ask me questions that took me in directions that my young mind in my mid to late 20s, which is really, our mind just starts developing at that time, and we start really thinking for ourselves, and our frontal cortex really starts developing, and we really, you can start believing in yourself and reaching out to different types of people. And you were really the first person that made a very different kind of impression on my life. So if anybody's listening, Larry has been influential. So that's my introduction for you. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Are you doing well? Are you doing okay in this corona thing? This whole abysmal craziness?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, you're doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah. It's not bothering you? I mean, what are some of your initial interpretations about what's going on, Larry? What do you think?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people concerned about a lot of different things. And it really depends on what their background is. What you're always concerned with the things that you don't know. And we run around selecting things to know based on preferences and necessity. And then when the necessity changes, such as the virus, people are looking for answers that they don't know, even if they know how to ask the question. And so they start grabbing any piece of information that comes to them and inspecting it as a datum for the analysis. And they try to throw it into a basket, and then they try to understand it. They're trying to understand. Why? Because they want to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is new. Okay, and anybody I'm doing this improper thing of touching my face.
It's fine. You have some Clorox wipes with you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We don't represent Clorox. We're not promoting them, and we're not getting any.
Not to go right to the rabbit hole immediately on the conversation, but this is, I've already inspected a lot of the things that I've heard, and it's not news to me. The things that are being circulated are not news politically, economically, philosophically,
Right.
Anybody who's been around for a while has heard just about everything.
Right.
And what you do with it is what's important, and how you can evaluate that information.
I have two questions to you, because we're gonna speak for a while tonight, but I don't want to go off on tangents. I want to try and keep things down to a pinpoint, not pivot too much. I have two questions for you. One, do you think we're going to come out of this okay? That's one. And two, what do you think the world's going to look like after this?
Well, those are both good questions.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with predicting the future. You want to know what the future is, and this is so you can plan, and everybody wants to know so they can plan. So when I think about, what was the first question? There's two parts. I got the second one knocked me into a different line of thought.
The first one is that do you think we're going to come out of this okay? And when we do come out of this, what do you think it's going to look like?
Well, first of all, I think the way things work in this universe, it always comes out okay. Basically, I mean, the volcano blows up and wipes out the island. That they don't go out okay. But we're talking about something across the whole world, right? This is something that happened to the whole world, and the king and the pauper have been equally impacted by this. Some people who are very well-to-do or very hooked up or whatever have gotten sick and died. And that's the thing about Mother Nature. When Mother Nature does something, you're going to come through it. The question is what's going to be the state of mankind after we get done with a big thing such as this, or a war, or a famine. So did I not answer the question? It really, I'm trying to.
No, I mean, you gave
Those are the things. Yeah.
You gave me some decent input. I think what people are seeing right now, and what I'm seeing right now, is that we live for a relatively small spectrum of time in contrast to the total reality of time. Millions of years. We're here for just a little window. Maybe in this consciousness, maybe we're here for a lot longer as another piece of energy in some of the consciousness, which I'm just not aware of or smart enough to know about. But within this small window, we've heard history of tragic events or very, very difficult times or historical moments when we've pivoted. And this is definitely a pivot. But a lot of people, especially myself and my age, have never experienced this kind of pivot. So it's very, very scary. And it's very, very hard for people to process. So the question becomes for many, many people, what is my reality going to look like once this calms down and we get through it? I mean, typically you get it's like a shock and awe in the first few weeks. Now in this fourth or fifth week now, I found myself very, very depressed this week, wondering what was going to happen with my business and what people's personalities were going to become like after this. Would they change? Would they go right back to business? Would this have some sort of immediate effect on people where they looked at things emotionally different than they did before? I know I am a little bit. What's going to be important to me after this and what's not going to be important? And
well, I think that not to cut you off, but I just you said a lot of good things, and some of them triggered some things for me as an answer, and I don't want to forget them. Mm-hmm. But I think every person has innate abilities that they brought with them into this life. They're just good at certain things. Mm-hmm. Would you agree that's true?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people take up music, or some people take up architecture. Some people are a real great gift to gab. Where do they get that? They bring it with them. That is part of their being, and it's what they can easily do, and how they operate, how they get through every problem is with these basic skills that they brought with them. And those skills are not going to change for Jeff or Larry or anyone on the planet, because we are faced with a new situation. One second. Because you're faced with a new situation. Sorry about that.
It's all right. We're all in quarantine.
Yeah, we are.
It happens.
So, because we're all faced with this new situation, doesn't mean we're changing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not changing. The environment is changing. And that's a really big deal to understand. How is that going to affect you right?
Right. That's the point. The point is like, I might have a certain skill set. I may have to adapt to that skill set differently to solve a new set of problems that this environment throws at me. And what is the environment going to look like after this? Because look at it. You got 7 million people that filed for unemployment. 60% of the country or greater was living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of them have run out of money. A lot of people that got fired are not going to get hired back. Some of the stimulus checks will be used in a good way. Other people will buy flat panel TVs with it. But whatever it is, it's not going to last a long time.
Right.
What is the United States? I mean, look, it's a guess. I don't know. I'm not an economic expert. I just find you to be a brilliant guy. What do you think? I mean, are we going to... I think the differential and the inequality is going to between the haves and the have-nots. It's going to worsen. I think it's going to be a lot more compressed.
Well, historically, throughout the history of man, as far as written back maybe 10,000 years, now 8,000 years, you've seen that people, they rise to the occasion to survive, right? They rise to the occasion to make their life better so that they can go to bed with a full belly, so that they can actually go to sleep, so they can get up the next morning and hunt again. All of these real basic things, those aren't going to change.
Yeah, but the problem is that we're so linked to the system. We're so linked to the economy. We're so linked into how we eat.
Well, this is knocking that. Yeah, to the degree that we knock that, we are going to find resourceful people are going to create new methodologies and new paradigms, which we don't see today, and we could not make a shift. If you look at the political strife in the world, it's built up and built up and built up like a pressure cooker, right? In the last 10, 20 years, right? Maybe since the 60s, it's been percolating, the post-war thing with the Cold War and all that in the 80s and 90s. And then, now we've had a couple of years of respite, and the world economy has gone zooming during that couple of years of respite, right?
Well, it's gone zooming for a certain portion of the society, not everyone.
Well, there's a 500 million people that have been brought out of poverty in the last 10 years. I mean, it's a huge chunk of mankind. So mankind as a whole has been getting better and better and better and better in the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we as Americans, we do things differently than people do across the world based on what they have and what's available to them. Their economics, their politics, all these things. So if we're talking in the U.S. and in New York, that's one thing. If we're talking about the worldwide stage and the future, it's kind of a little bit different paradigm that they're living with. So my thing is, are we talking about people who live in the big cities in the United States, what things they're going to face?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the United States for a second. I mean, I don't think things are going to get better for people that are living in the small manufacturing towns that were supporters of Trump, or people down in the deep South, or anywhere where a lot of jobs are lost, or a lot of manufacturing jobs are lost. I think in the cities, I think it's going to be more competitive. There are going to be less jobs. I don't think that people are going to come back to restaurants right away. I think a lot of businesses are going to go out and not come back. I think it's going to take a year or so before live music venues get going again. I mean, that's what they're saying. I don't know. Maybe people will just be like, I don't give a shit. I want to go eat in these restaurants and I don't care anymore.
That's what Sweden's doing. They don't close anything in Sweden. They're going, hey, the immune system's going to handle this, and it's going to handle it one way or the other in any case. So let's just go for it. And they're noticing a level off on this virus as well. Yeah. Even though they have a
I was reading in the news that the percentage, the mortality rate, the death rate was higher than what we're doing, but I don't know what's true or not, because obviously we're not in Sweden, but Sweden is a much different type of population than we have here in the United States. It's a lot more homogenous. It's a few different clans of mostly Caucasian people, and a certain economic strata, and I think the people there are a little bit more, brotherly when it comes to their neighbors than here in the United States. I mean, here in the United States, people pretty much do their own thing, in my opinion. It's just the way it's become.
Well, I think in the big cities in the United States, the people are going to do what they're going to do. I mean, living in New York for 8 years, I learned that, people are going to do what they're going to do. And you can talk to them all you want, but if they believe something, they're going to go for what they think is just the bare nuts necessity of what they're going to do. They go, no, 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 that's not going to work. I'm going to go do this over here. I'm doing this, and you explain to them, hey, in the long run, this isn't going to work for you. And they say, it doesn't matter right now. I need to do X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to go do it. And I think that that's what's going to happen. That's the same thing that's always been happening is going to happen the same way. So all the things that you know about people, they're not going to change.
Not going to learn. They're not going to learn from this.
Well, they're going to learn, but they're not going to be different people. They're still going to have the same. If you know a risk taker, he's going to be a risk taker tomorrow. He's going to start up a new company because he's got some harebrained idea about the way people are going to respond to this, and I'm going to sell the crap out of it. And he gets 10 people to work for him on spec, and they build up this thing, and they hit the thing, and then he starts promoting it. Business is just going to go on. It's going to be new businesses. There's going to be people rising from the dust of the coronavirus shutdown.
Well, there's going to
be. They're going to make a lot of money.
Sure.
There's going to be some real winners.
Right. Well, whenever there's a shock like this, there are people that can take advantage of it, just indirectly take advantage of it because of the position that they're in. Maybe it's a specific business. Maybe it's because they have a certain amount of capital, but the majority of the people are not winning from this. I know there are going to be some winners, but they're far and in between. I was talking to a business associate of mine. He's a little bit older than me, and he's helped me and he's mentored me in business, and he was just telling me just all the assumptions that he'd made about business and life were all wrong. And this basically just hammered him. It hammered him. A very well-to-do guy. I have 3 or 4 friends that I've been talking to that have businesses that they've been running for 20 years that they're considering shutting down their businesses because they don't know if it's worth it for the amount of capital that they're going to have to put in to bridge the gap in regards to what they lost or what they need to make up when the business will regain energy again.
That's an accounting problem.
It's all over the place, and I wonder if this is just the world, the environment, whether it's the environment or it's definitely a pushback. Whether it's natural, not natural, I'm not sure. This is definitely a pushback to the size of our population, our behavior, the way we interact. This is a pushback. It wants a change.
We are noticing it because of the freedoms that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
We will notice the difference in our generations. But the guys that are 17 years old graduating from high school this year, they're going to see it's different, but they're not going to live in a different environment. This is the environment that they're living in.
Right.
They're going to have to make it in this environment. So those paradigms have to be figured out. And we're going to have some kind of a germ problem every 50 or 100 years. And if you look at the other, the SARS and some of the other viruses that have gone through,
mm-hmm.
which is a whole subject in itself, what is the immune system virus? I mean, what's going on for the human experience between the fight between those two? Because really it's your immune system that defends you against all these things. And some people don't even break a sweat.
Right.
And other people are dying from it. So,
well, it seems to be some sort of, believe me, I'm no biologist, nor am I a geneticist or a viral expert, but it seems that some people, if they don't have some precondition, have some genetic predisposition or blood type issue that the virus attacks. But in general, most people, it's about 40% of the people they say are asymptomatic. And the other people are just getting colds, like fevers.
Yeah. So this is what has been going on for millions and millions and millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the little rodents survived the death of the dinosaurs. How could they do that?
Mm-hmm.
The little rodents. And that's,
Is that what you're saying? We're little rodents, Larry?
We are we came from the little rodents that, 50, 60 million years ago, or whatever it was,
Right.
when that was
Look
the
at
end
my
of the
eyes.
dinosaurs. But,
My beady eyes.
yeah, much
Hanging
carries on.
look, hanging out in like little cracks, right? Watching those dinosaurs go by until they get blasted by a meteorite.
Yeah, we're waiting for the big one.
Then the dust clears, and then we're like,
Let's eat some of that dinosaur meat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
for guys like me that are doing a certain type of business for 20 years, it's a scary time because I'm not sure, or people in my group, we're not sure that we can sustain these businesses and the lifestyle. And I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm trying to look at it with a very, very open mind and remain strong for my wife and for my child, as I'm sure many, many people are. The one thing that I did find myself doing in the beginning of all this was complaining about it to people that were in very, very similar situations that I was in. And I realized, and I apologized to some of them, because you know what? You know me. I'm like Mr. Complainer. But everybody's in the same condition or a similar situation. And everybody's definitely nervous about it, no matter how much they have.
well, that's true. I think almost everybody's concerned, and they should be concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a sane reaction to a big, big, big problem. And the question is, for me anyways, what I look at is it really a problem? What would I be doing otherwise? And what do I really want to do? What do I want to get done? And, if your target that you have is to have $50 million of sales this year, that kind of a target, then things are problematic for that. But, there's always been guys that have been able to sell manure to farmers.
Mm-hmm.
How did they do that? My uncle used to sell drainage tile in Ohio and so forth for these big farms to drain off the excess water because the soil had too much clay. And there were 10 companies that supplied the same product, but his company sold 90%, and his sales force of 10 or 15 guys sold 90% of all the drainage tile in the whole basin for the Corn Belt. And why in the hell did that happen? That didn't,
Well, they were either whining and dining very well or prostitutes, one or the other. I'm not sure.
My uncle would just. I heard my uncle. I used to go see him at trade shows when he was a consultant and retired from that. He would say, "Well, let's go see Johnson's farm there. We'll close them. You go close them today, okay? And then we'll go blah blah blah." And the guy says, "I don't know. I've been out to see Johnson 10 times." And he's going blah, 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 and he's not buying. And he says, "Well, if you can't handle it, I'll take care of it." No, it's okay. I'll just go out and I'll close him, and that'll be the end of it, and we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy said, "Uh-oh, don't you worry. I'll close Johnson today." And he'd go to see Johnson, and he'd close him. So there is this thing of necessity. Necessity is the mother of all invention. And Americans have lived this way generation after generation, and not just Americans. I mean, people throughout the world are clever. We like to think we're more clever than they are, but I don't think so.
I hear what you're saying. I just think that, for someone like me, it's just, and many, many people, it's a huge shock. And, one of the emotions that it invokes in me is, there's fear, there's a lot of anger, because I just really don't feel that we were prepared for this. I really
weren't.
This government, like when they get on the news and they talk about it, and I'm not going to get into it about our leaders right now, who they are, naming, I'm not getting into that. But when they get up on the TV, they do not make me feel warm and fuzzy. They do not make me feel comfortable.
Well, what would make
they don't make me feel you know, they don't make me feel like they're the right people for the job. Let's just say that.
Well, who is?
I don't know.
You're asking a big question. You're asking for somebody to respond to something that has never happened before. I mean, if you just take a look at how much you've been whacked by it, by the whole thing, everyone has been knocked off kilter. And the thing of it is, the information, what's really the true information?
That's the problem.
You know, and so I think the intelligence and the medical and the media are all equally part of the problem that had to be corrected in order to correct this coronavirus thing. Now, you know from business, whatever you buckle down and just do, you get it done. If you decide to get it done, Jeff, you get it done. I know you, and I know thousands of other people like you, who are able-bodied people. These are the people that make the world go round. And when they decide to do something, they dig to the bottom and they get something that works, and they get out and they get done with it and they move on. That's just what you're going to do. That's just what everybody else is going to do. You know, we don't care. You know, who sunk the Maine? We don't care about who sunk the Maine anymore. We know that it was done by somebody who went down there and blew it up, right?
I think.
But exactly who? It's the same thing with all this other stuff. It doesn't matter who. It's just what has it done to each individual person in their life, and how does that affect what they do, and what do they have to do to change what they're doing so that it becomes the right thing for the new situation. And for that, you got to have correct information, and that's more important than pointing the finger.
Well, I'm not pointing the finger because I don't know, and I'm
not saying you are, but that goes on all the time. And you know, most of the people that point the finger, it's the old saying about, you know, if you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 other fingers that point back at you.
Right.
You know, there's a certain amount of wisdom to that. It's kind of moronic in a lot of ways, but when the people who I know that are the most vocal in complaining about whatever at any time, and this goes back to the 60s when I was beginning to wonder what the heck were all these people yelling about on TV, you know. The ones that are yelling the loudest are the ones with dirty hands. And I think that we can see that in news every day. You can see dirty hands all over the place.
Well, the politicians are going at it. I mean, they're using, when are we going to open the states as political stances against each other, party versus party? It's obvious.
Well, the states are going to open based on what the government says for the state, right?
I understand.
There's going to be some guidelines. The governors are going to be running it. So if Michigan doesn't want to let you go into the park with your dog, and they're going to give you a ticket, you know, the Justice Department has already talked about that. You know, what's the local judge going to do what law did the guy break? Oh, he broke a governmental edict from the governor who said you can't take your daughter to the park, right? Then he's going to throw the case out of court. So, because it's not a law, it wasn't a legislated law. So, you know, we have a system of laws in America, and that's why we're even doing this show tonight, because we can do that. And those laws are the things that we fall back on first as Americans.
I don't even know can they by law, I mean, this is really voluntary, right? Can they be keeping this in like this? I mean, not that I'm saying I want to break the law. I'm just curious, I don't know if you know, I don't know. Can they? Well, I think against our rights.
Yeah, the AG has talked about this already many times in recent days, because there's so many complaints about it. And he's saying, look, you know, these guys have constitutional rights, and the state governor cannot break the Constitution of the United States. So no, you can't make a person But nobody is fighting it because it's good sense. And that's why they should be doing it anyway, not because there's a law or because the governor says so. Like when the ban is lifted for travel, I'm not going to be just traveling because I got, huh?
It's going to take a year before people want to cross the pond again and go overseas again. It's going to take a long time.
Fine.
People want to get into restaurants. It's
fine. We're going to do things in America that we've needed to do for the last 50 years and haven't. Since my grandfather was a young man. People live differently, and this virus is setting us back 50 years socially.
You think so?
Yes, I think so. And that's a major step. I think neighbors have gotten to know each other. You know, I'm out taking walks, and there are other people from the neighborhood. Finally, after all winter, they're taking walks too. And I see them, say hi, and we talk about something, and we move on.
Well, I live in a city just outside of Manhattan. I'm right abeam Manhattan, and every morning I take my son outside, and there's some construction workers out, there's some cars moving, but in general, 99% of the people are inside, and there are no children outside at all. People are scared. My son looks at me. I think I told you this before, this little anecdotal story, but he looks at me every morning and he says, no people, like where the people are. And
yeah.
I have to, he sees it. He's only a little over 3 years old. It's amazing. And he knows he's not going to school. He asks where his teacher is, so it breaks my heart. But he says to me, no people. So I said to him the other day, I said, some of the people aren't feeling that well, and the other people, they're hiding, and he smiles. So we went out the other day. He goes, they're hiding? Are they hiding? And I'm like, I'm not an expert, so I don't know what to do. I'm like, yeah, some are not feeling that well today, and yeah, some are hiding, and then we'll just go about our business and we'll go look at construction sites and walk around. But, people are, generally very concerned, nervous, and scared, and staying inside. I have noticed over the last couple of days, because I do go out, I do go to my facility where I work because there's only a couple of people there that are manning it and we're all spaced out, and I jump in my car and I go there because I need to see what's going on. That over the last few days, the traffic has really picked up. There's more people out.
Yeah.
And the governor here in this state is hardcore. We're right by, we're in Jersey, and Manhattan is saying May 15th, and I'm sure it's going to extend past May 15th. It's probably going to go Memorial Day weekend, I think, early June would be a guess, and I still don't know. But another thing that I noticed is that small shop business owners are a few more opening up their stores on their own, ahead of when they're supposed to be opening up their stores. They're not essential, and they're opening up. So people are starting to eke out.
You're not going to stop it.
No, I'm not. It's interesting to watch. I'm not saying that anybody's going to stop it or I want to see it. It's an observation.
They're not going to stop it. It's just going to, because people have, as Americans, we have these laws, and we have the Bill of Rights, and we have the Constitution. And that's what this whole country, that's a whole experiment. That's all that we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And for better or worse, richer or healthier, till death do us part. We're Americans, and that is the core of being an American, is living in a republic with laws that are the senior thing, not the king, not the political party, not the businessman. Nobody is the king. We have the rights as an individual citizen. And to the degree that you exercise your rights and that you call people on your rights, you are more and more of an American. And to the degree that you preach American government and law to others, you're going to spread that whole doctrine of freedom and liberty to the degree that, I don't care what party you're in, the law is the law. And if you don't like the law, get your legislator to do something about it and change it. And you don't go do something about it if you don't like it. But the biggest thing is local law. People have been ignorant of local law and they have not been doing anything in their locale to dictate what goes on in their local law. Throughout the United States, it's become very, very passive, and townships have passed all kinds of regulations and stuff that prevent people from doing things on the township level and on the city level and on the county level, because people haven't exercised their rights as citizens. And I think this coronavirus thing is brought out all the little pimples of society, brought them out forward, and we see all this stuff, like some of the stuff that goes on in townships, the crazy things that thwart businesses and stop people from being able to use their own rights that they have from the Bill of Rights. Those things are going to see we're getting at a whole awakening here. It started 20 years ago with the end of the civil rights thing with LBJ. Maybe it's 40 years now. Things have changed, and I don't purport to be a political scientist in any stretch of the word, but I noticed that there's been a change in the movement, and the movement is, you are an American and you have these rights, and they are yours, Jeff, and they are mine, and to the degree we use them, right, then we overcome things like this coronavirus thing. And to the degree that people don't, we get the complaints and the protests. It's like, why do you even have to go in the street and protest to your local politician because you don't like what they did, right? That's kind of backwards and asinine. If you have control,
when there's power in the hands of the few, that's what's going to happen. And when you have people that have power and people that don't, people are going to get pissed off about it. And sometimes those sort of social movements are what drives policy sometimes, Larry. You know, when I was younger and I used to see people protest on a small scale, you know, when I was younger, in my teens, 20s, I'd be like, oh, what's those 2 or 3 people, you know, doing there? What are they going to possibly change?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what? Sometimes those 3 people grow into 10,000 and 10,000 to 20,000 to 50,000. That's sometimes that public discourse is what drives policy in different directions. Remember, all these people vote, so they're going to push these politicians if those ideas get popular enough. It's just unfortunate now that our government doesn't really seem to be driven by the hearts of Americans anymore. It seems to really be driven financially, top down financially.
No, maybe, but I'm not sure it was ever driven that way. And I think that if anything,
well, then I'm naive.
Americans are coming to an activation point. I think it's one of the positive things about this coronavirus thing is that people are saying, "Hey, I can be affected by some governmental thing. I wonder, is there something else that has been going on that's been affected? You know, I haven't liked the fact I haven't been able to get my building permit, blah, 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 or that it costs $35,000 to get a building permit to build a house in LA, a 3-bedroom house, $35,000. $35,000 for a building permit. It's like, there's something wrong. No wonder we have a housing shortage. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't buy a piece of land and build something to live on or put a trailer on it. You know, we have these problems. They're created by people being inactive as citizens.
Mm-hmm. They're being created by people that are profiting from them.
Everybody, you're always going to have somebody profiting. You can't put them as the cause. The cause is the working guys that are being affected didn't do anything about it. They let it slide. And they can't do that. I'm busy working. I'm busy with my kids. I'm busy with this. I'm going to give it to this. I'm going to elect Joe over here to represent me. So, you know, the whole of government is the aggregate irresponsibility of the masses.
Well,
whatever they don't want to do, they give to the government. Well, that's why it's going this way. People have to, and they are waking up to this. It's like, oh, I am responsible for my own health. I better put a mask on. See what I'm saying? It's changing the way people think about their responsibility on a social level.
I agree, and that could be a positive thing. And
Yeah.
we're getting off on everything you're saying is brilliant. We're getting off on the Larry Jeff tangent, but I want to drive a couple of things
All
forward
right.
the conversation, and I want to ask you another question. A lot of a lot. Let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to the alien stuff. A lot of conspiracy theory talk going on around this, and people like to dive in or believe or connect themselves to conspiracy theories because it gives them, well, maybe they feel like they understand what's going on. It's a psychological thing. Maybe they're connected to it. Maybe they know something more that other people do. Who the fuck knows what it is? But my question to you is that, do you think that this was driven naturally, or do you think there's a hand in it that indirectly caused this? It's a guess. I know you don't know for sure. I don't want to be
alien connection for the coronavirus.
No, not an alien. I'm saying, do you think that this happened because the virus just mutated on its own and somehow it transmitted and caused this problem, or do you think that there was a human hand in it that drove it in a certain direction?
Well, there's documentation that there was a human hand that was done by researchers that were doing immunology. And
we basically just let it out of the bag ourselves by accident.
Well, we didn't. It happened in China. That's where the lab was.
Right, the Wuhan lab.
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly where it is, but it's somewhere over there.
Right.
And,
so do you think it was
that's the data that I have. You can only go on the data that you have.
Do you think it was let out intentionally?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a mistake, and then it was discovered, and then nobody knew, and then they found out, and then they said, oh my God, we can't let anybody know because politically and economically it's going to screw us. So
I don't know if you've heard there are incredible lawsuits against China.
That's good.
Organizations, countries, huge lawsuits.
There's also connections to other people who funded that. And what are we going to say? They're the ones that are the cause of it. The thing is that I think it's an opportunity to dissolve the Chinese Communist Party. I think it's an opportunity for all the nations of the world to say, look, you guys are not okay, and we want other leadership. You are out, or we're all just going to cut you off.
From what I understand is that the people of China are very unhappy with their leader there.
They are.
Very unhappy.
They're not just the leader, it's the Communist Party. Mm-hmm. They've been running short reins on those people for the last 130 years. I think it's 130 now.
Well, when you let a few 100 million people, when you boost a few 100 million people out of poverty, they start having a voice that bands together, and maybe that's the pressure that they're feeling there right now. And they're not happy about this virus. They're not happy of the repercussions and how the world feels about them. And I think what I'm being told is that we could see some real backlash against that leadership, that party.
People can just start setting up factories in their own countries and say, screw the shipping. We're just going to do it here. It'll cost us 5% more, 10% more to do it here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, could do with that, but the Chinese, they're getting their economy going. They're not the cheap place to go anymore. Vietnam is way cheaper than them.
Mm-hmm.
And so people will just move their factories to Vietnam. Vietnam has been the China for China for the last 10 years. Chinese businessmen have been moving their businesses to Vietnam. And for what? The cheap labor. Well, after a certain point, that's all going to end. This is a pendulum that sweeps only once, and that is the automation in manufacturing of standard items that everybody uses. Once that's established in every country of the world, we won't need the shipping boats to run with all this diesel fuel to bring these things around. The paradigm is going to shift. And with the printers, 3D printers, if they get the materials together for those, so you really could print anything, then all you'll do is buy the design from the designer and the materials from the materials store, and you'll make whatever you want. So,
honey, you need that dishwasher? I'll have it ready for you in 2 hours.
Yeah, it takes 3 days for the printer to put it out, but we got the new part. And this is also a great thing for space exploration because they don't need to haul all the parts with them. They just need the CAD drawings.
Right.
And this is going to change the paradigm for everybody's worried about the things from the old paradigm.
What's going to happen to all those people, man, when they automate? The automation just continues and continues. I mean, that's really, this country was not ready for it also because we were, the rise of Trump was really a reflection of how poorly people were doing and how many manufacturing jobs were lost in this country and how much manufacturing moved from the United States to China over the last 30 years. And it really started and was driven by entrepreneurial businessmen, smaller businessmen, which imploded into larger corporations that moved manufacturing over. And now that's happening in China, like you said, it's moving to Thailand, and the wave of manufacturing is following this cheap labor. What do you do when you run out of labor and you just pile through all those other people and you add robotics on top of it? Forget about just...
Well, you can just bring all the jobs back to the U.S. and all of us poor guys can do them, right?
I mean, obviously, we really don't give a shit. We really don't give a shit about people at the end of the day. We really only give a fuck about profits. Because think about all the people that get left behind.
That's been going on. Yeah.
We really don't give a fuck. Think about the towns that have been decimated in this country. You look at Amazon. That company alone, or what do you call them, brilliant, call them the richest man in the world, whatever. You can get a package and you can get a dildo in 24 hours. Bravo. In the meantime, you have no investment in the communities that they're operating out of. They're just pulling like capital labor to work cheaply in their distribution hubs and networks. Neighborhoods are getting decimated. Storefronts are getting decimated. The local shop owner is gone. You know what happens when you don't have the local shop owner anymore, Larry? The kids don't hang out at the store anymore. They don't go down there with the parents. They don't pick up the bubble gum and the candy and the head of lettuce and the little container of milk like they used to. And all of a sudden, your neighborhoods start falling to shit. That's what happens. And the money isn't reinvested in with the local. Like if you had local businesses that were doing well, you would have local store owners, local businessmen reinvesting in the community. But you know what happens now? All the money goes out, goes to the Amazons, and it goes to the big, the Costco's and the BJ warehouses. It's going in this direction all the time, and people want to wonder, why is the crime up? Why are my kids just staying in their room watching video games? Because people are not giving a fuck about the community and the people that allow those businesses to flourish in the first place. It's really a problem. It's fucked up. I mean, people are like, oh, Amazon stock and he's worth $150 billion. Who the fuck cares? What about the fabric underneath it? What about the neighborhoods? That's what's really suffering. I know I'm going off on a tangent here right now. I guess I'm a little emotional because of this coronavirus thing.
I like it. I like what you're saying. I think it's a really good thing to look at. It's a very important question for people to consider.
Well, there's an inverse relationship.
What you're talking about is a shift in the paradigm of how we live. The distribution of products and houses and education and people. Those things are changing. Now, if you look at the reason why people are living in big cities and how they became a paradigm from everyone used to live in log cabins spread out over the plains, in the woods, right? You know what I'm saying? The paradigm changed to the cities and people left the foothills of Kentucky to come up and work in Ann Arbor to build carburetors for Chevy in the 30s. And there was a big new town that swelled up from it, Ypsilanti. And it's, right on the freeway there when you go down to Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti and swing over to Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
those days are gone though.
Why are they gone and why were they formed? See, when you get goods and services delivered to you, and you don't have to actually create it, right? Then things are different. What do you need a job for? If you have access to the CAD files to everything that you could ever want. And you have a very cheap supply of stuff, and you just bought a garage full of it for the building materials for your printer. See, monetary, the whole supply chain, this is a bigger paradigm shift than what you're talking about. You're talking about people moving away from the cities and the ghettos, crashing in, and the poverty crashing in the inner city. Well, the cities are going to go away.
Well, no, I'm not saying the home for a second. It's not the inner cities. I'm just talking just regular towns across America where there was, the local communities surrounding a few different factories and a few different companies. That's gone, and that's going away. And what I'm basically saying, it's like those were like networks of cell structures, and the people around that were living inside that host, and that host was feeding them. The host doesn't work. That host doesn't work anymore there because those people are too expensive. They want too much. Biologically, everybody wants to make more money. They want better health care. They want certain rights. And that host, after a while, has enough of that. And it needs to move on. It needs to go somewhere cheaper so the guys at the top can get more. They can get the bigger house. They can get the bigger car. The stock price can go up. And that goes on over and over and over again. And the cells that live around that host, all those people, they sort of like die out like a cell
Well,
structure.
be careful what you wish for, because
I don't wish for that.
This paradigm no, I know, but you're wishing for things to go back the way they were back in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s.
I don't know if I'm wishing. I don't know if I'm wishing for it. I'm just saying that what was going on in this country before Corona was that there was a group of people. You can even call them, a genetic cell structure. If you combine them all together, and whatever was feeding them before is gone, and it's never coming back. And that's going to continue to worsen over time.
What is it? You're being so general. I don't know what you're talking about. There's a group of people. Which people?
I'm saying that what the fabric that was gluing a lot of our economy together and a lot of our community together, which was already dissipating, is going to continue to dissipate. And what is the country going to look like? And as we move out of this,
my opinion is that it's accelerating us to the new paradigm. We've already started to do it. Everything is working in that direction, and it's just simply accelerating us to that paradigm. People are going to move away from the cities.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be more distributed manufacturing and power. The last 100 years has been centralized, right? We've taken power and put it on the grid in the last 130 years, right?
What are those people going to do when they move back? When they move back out of the cities, they're going to, like you're saying, they're going to have farming communities again.
Everything you're doing in your house, working in your house, all these people who are working in their house now, they've learned that businesses are going, banks and all kinds of people are working from their house. You know what? House could be a cabin in the woods now. Okay, thank you very much. We have FedEx.
Right.
You can have it the next day, even though you're not in a cosmopolitan area. And you know how many people are going to run away from the cosmopolitan areas once that's done?
But how are they going to make livings? Remotely?
They're going to do the same thing they're doing now, but they're going to do it from their computer over one of Elon Musk's satellites, Webb. The new star system or whatever they call it.
Yeah, do the cable companies know that he's bypassing them? He's setting up a system to completely bypass.
But he's really going to try to service the rural areas, and they don't want to. So he's not really a competitor for them.
Oh, really?
But eventually,
he will.
He's going to get more revenue from that than everything else that he's built. And he's going to use that to found the Mars missions, to build 1,000 starships.
I hope that he that satellite system is under the Tesla umbrella, because I just bought some Tesla stock. I might hopefully.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's different, right? It's another company.
No, it's different. Yeah, and I think it's good
to
invest.
I'm the worst investor there is.
Yeah, any of those Elon Musk ventures right now are very positive. I mean, he's got the whole rocket industry criticizing him and being upset with him because he's just like the United Launch Systems, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's innovating.
And the Russians, they're the two big ones that have been launching all the military and all the stuff to the space station, all that. They don't have it anymore. He has it all.
I wonder if he walks around with bodyguards. You think about the amount of industry that he's disrupting. He has to make, certain guys at home just fucking pulling out like industrialists and like
they should just join him. I mean, why can't they just join him? He wants them to.
And he doesn't want them to. He wants them. He gave out the patents of the Tesla battery technology because he wants it to evolve, and he wants electricity to be the way with cars. I mean, I applaud him for that, but that guy is not working with old school businessmen. That guy is way ahead.
No, they need to get on board because that's what's going to happen.
But I'm just like, I hope he has like some fucking bodyguards. I mean,
I'm sure he has bodyguards.
I mean, I can see it right now. He's about to disrupt the energy industry. That's coming too with that guy.
I think that his approach to batteries are not a good solution, and that it will not be successful. It will be done, but it will. There's a lot of other battery technology that's been developed that is a lot better than what he has.
I'm not going to debate that because I'm not an expert in any of these things. I'm just speaking
for your listeners to know. There's a thing called liquid salt batteries.
Mm-hmm.
You know about liquid salt reactors. The
only salt I know about is what I put on my eggs.
Liquid salt. Yeah, this is they melt salt at 1700 degrees or something like that, and it's a liquid, and they pump it through pipes. And they store it. And they store liquid salt, and then they use it later. So that's your battery right there.
Right.
Anyway, but there's also electric batteries that are electric batteries made from molten metal,
mm-hmm.
and those are very efficient, and the dangerous hazards to them are very small. So this whole business of phasing the energy off the grid into little batteries, thousands and thousands of little batteries, is really not going to last long. So
you're talking about those little like remote hubs, these little battery hubs that he has, where he went into Brazil and he went into Australia and he set up these little remote battery stations.
Yeah, but see, he's changing the paradigm. People are going, oh, this is better than distributed. See, ever since Tesla, we've been on distributed power, where they have central generators and then they pipe it out to everybody. This is an insane power system because, first of all, any problem can bring the grid down because it's all hit together, right? And when one thing happens, it can tear down the whole grid. Like New York City lost power years ago, and they never figured out why.
So do you don't think that battery technology is going to be the power source for the world?
No, batteries doesn't make a power. It only stores electrical energy. It's not a power source.
But if you can store enough electrical energy, you don't think it's going to be the distribution channel of the power?
Well, you don't need a distribution channel if you have local storage, because you can have local generation and store it.
Well,
the thing about the grid...
But that's what he's doing. He's doing local storage.
I know, and he's changing the paradigm, but his particular solution is not going to be long-lasting. And I'm just saying that there's much better stuff in the pipe, and there's much better stuff for manufacturing. See, China is gotten into all this manufacturing with CNC machines, the computer, right? Now, those things are been piped onto your desktop. You don't need China anymore. If you became active, as some people are, in doing this desktop printing.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not going to get the same products that you can get. Like, you're not going to get an Xbox. You're not going to 3D print an Xbox. You're not going to 3D print,
No, that you won't. However, those things are, and we are behind. We are behind on our silicon chip. About 25 years ago, they perfected the chip on board. You probably know about that. Where they actually just glue a silicon chip onto the board. They terminate all the wires onto the board with microcircuitry, and then they drop a blob of epoxy on, and then they sell it to you as a musical card that costs $5, and it's a microprocessor and music processor, and the music stored, everything on that one little thing, and you can record a message. Those, you saw those come and go, right? Those.
Yeah. The
but that's how cheap it is. It's like 25 cents for them to make that card.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're heading for is ubiquitous computing. Futurists have been talking about this for many years.
Well, you talk about this.
We're damn near there.
When you talk about the computing and people doing what they do now from home because of the technology, this corona thing, like my wife is working more now from home with her job than she was in the office.
Of course.
And they're all working more now because they're all online. They're all Zooming with each other.
You guys can get a house out in the middle of nowhere now.
Well,
not with your business, but
No, but I could still, like, the biggest issue with us staying close to the city was I didn't want her to have to commute, and I don't mind commuting a half hour to 50 minutes to where I got to go. I'm just getting in my car, But, if this happens with her job and it becomes more of the status quo, but like her company, I'll give you an example. Like there are a lot of people that are hurting during this corona thing. Her business, she does online. She's a tech girl, so she builds digital products for this company. And I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to do that. I don't want to plug it.
Right.
But they do online high-end workouts for young women in the urban areas. And all the gyms are closed right now. And they were doing well before. They have studios. They have these products that you use. Kind of like, like these.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, those kind of things. But
yeah.
they did $1 million more this month in business. She's so, like, her head is so locked into this computer and talking to 10 different people at once. She's like, what's going on out there? I'm like, people are fucking dying. Like, she's like doing their digital world, like, here. And like outside, I come home, I'm like, my business is for shit. I have 3 friends that are thinking about closing down her business, and her business digitally is doing $1 million more this month.
Exactly. And in the same way, why would a company build a great big mortar building, right? Brick and mortar building, to put their engineering staff in, even when they can do 3D, full immersion, VR design with 10 or 12 people all in the same room designing the same machine, grabbing the files and looking at these stuff, talking and critiquing and moving, sending something out. I mean, design is just going out the roof. Engineering is going out the roof with this VR stuff.
Right.
So,
there's
only a few companies that have started it, but the car companies are starting to do it. They're building whole cars in VR. And
I see what you're saying. But you could have 7 different guys remotely design a car and not be together in the room. I get it. I'm
great for the coronavirus.
But the tragedy of this corona is driving certain things, and one of it's just driving is a lot of companies are not going to pull people back to the offices. They're seeing that they can rely on this remote stuff. My wife's like, because my son is not in school right now, so in the morning I'll watch my son Reese for a couple hours. Then I'll go to I shouldn't be going out. I'm not supposed to be going out. I'm admitting I'm not supposed to be going out, but I go out, and the nanny comes and watches him for, in the middle of the day. And then, my wife takes over, and then I come home and then, give him a bath. But she's working. We move our schedule around her remote work schedule with work. So there's some real, interesting things that are happening to this. And I wonder, what things are going to be like in New York from a social aspect after this, what it's going to look like. I used to go out to dinner once a week with my friends in the city. I would go see a show or two. I like to go see live music. None of that's happening. What we're doing, or people are having Facebook live sessions, and one guy's DJing, and like 60 of us are watching, and then 20 of us are on Zoom, or we're watching the Facebook live at the same time. And we can't touch each other, but we're all together, like in this digital world, which will probably eventually become VR based. We'll all meet each other in a room. It's kind of strange. You ever see that movie Real Player One? That Spielberg movie? That was wild. That was wild. It was really good. Hold on, I dropped something on the floor. Wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm good.
Well,
What?
Anything you want to revisit that we skimmed upon?
No, I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. I'm definitely, my business went from doing pretty well to like nothing in 4 weeks. And there's a lot of businesses like that right now.
Yeah.
So my question that I'm just speaking out loud right now. So if people are listening and maybe, when they do listen to this, whether they relate to this or not, some people, look, they're not going to be affected by this. Other people are going to be tragically affected. There are people like me that have a skill set. Look, maybe I close up my business and I go do something else with my skill set and I can make a living. Maybe we go remote, like you said, and my wife works remote and I watch my son and go drive dirt bikes, whatever, and I pick my nose in the afternoon, and fart in the wind. I don't know what it's going to be. But
there's a lot of chopper-related stuff that you could get into that you know about.
Yeah, I'm just saying, 15 years of work, 20 years of work, and building a business, and in 4 weeks, it wiped it out. I'm not saying that the business is not still there, but the way it was functioning before, and the businesses that were feeding my business all went from hero to zero in fucking 4 to 5 weeks.
You don't think they'll snap back soon? Why not?
Some of them. I don't want to talk about my vertical so much on the video, but
yeah, okay.
We can talk about it. Some of it's based on some of it's based on tourism. Some of it's based on high net worth individuals, but all of it's about moving people around in transportation. And the question becomes is, how fast does that snap back? You look at the tourism piece, how quickly are people going to be coming from around the world to want to go to New York to do what I do? Not I do, but the companies that support, some of the companies that support my business, a year, at least.
Well,
a year.
Yeah, but, I would say that the folks that have the kind of, I would think that the people who have the kind of resources to use those kind of services are going to be traveling right away because they want to get something done.
There was an industry, they just did, now, I don't know if it's completely super conservative, but there was an industry forecast within my vertical by industry, people in the industry and specialists in the industry, and they said that the high net worth guys, the people that have money that want to move around privately like this, we'd be lucky to see 30 to 40% of what we were before this time of the year, which is the busiest time of the year coming up. And that could take 6 months to 8 months to come back. The tourism part, which is sort of a, not lower end, it's just a lower price point, a year. So there's a lot of changing in deals and how you run the businesses and leases and rents and this and that all have to sort of meld around this new change in the business. And that's what really, really concerns me. And I think that's what a lot of business owners are going to be doing. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine who's in the entertainment business, and he has an event hall. Every one of his special events from April to October were canceled. It's a lot of money. So now he's weighing whether or not it's worth it for him to keep it open. The amount of money that he'll personally have to put in if he can't get an SBA loan, whatever it may be. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses in different verticals that are all dealing with that. And what's going to happen? It's like survival of the fittest, man. It's like fucking Darwin. It's capital Darwinism. And I'm not saying it happened purposely, intentionally, whether it was indirect, but there are going to be some major winners in every vertical. You're going to see international airlines disappear. You're going to see this computer company disappear. You're going to see that one car company. These kinds of things are going to happen, and this business is going to flow like right up a chain, and there's going to be a smaller amount of companies controlling more business. And that's going to be an indirect effect, and it's going to create another disproportionate amount, the inequality thing that's been going on in this country. That's another effect of this corona thing that's going to happen big time. So I'm not an expert. It's just what I'm watching.
Well, I'm talking about the things that are further off into the future than what you are talking about.
You're a rocket scientist, and I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah, I want to just say that there's hope. You know,
Yeah.
There's hope, and mankind's not going to be thwarted from this. The paradigm is going to change, and there's going to be good things that come out of this. And a lot of it, I think, is that people are going to start working together more closely. Because if you have 10 business guys that all get their tush in the grinder, there's 10 super capable people that already proved themselves. They can band together and they can do something else with bright ideas, brainstorm, and come up with a whole new paradigm to solve something based on their group wisdom.
I hope so. I hope I get to join into one of those groups because I don't have the energy to start all over again.
Well, you know, this is how the country was built. This is how the world was built.
Yeah.
With what I'm talking about. It wasn't built on government subsidies. It wasn't built on anybody helping anybody out. It was by brilliant people coming together with high necessity and solving the problem at hand. And you don't even know what the problem at hand is. That's the big problem for all of the verticals.
Do you think that this will bring people closer together, Larry, or will it push us apart further?
Well,
I'm not talking about business. I'm talking about social fabric.
Yeah, there's always antisocial people. There's maybe 10% of the population. They're just antisocial. The pricks of people that you know that you'd call a prick or whatever. You know, they're not nice people. They're not nice people.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be them. And then there's the other 90%.
Right.
So if you can identify a social personality and I guess we'd call them antisocial or social, whatever way you want to call it. That's the main thing. Just don't deal with antisocial people. You ever call a credit card company and try to ask them to do something for you and you get an absolute no, and then you call back again and you ask the next person and they say, well, yeah, we can do that. What's the difference? You have a social personality helping you or a non-social personality. And you just have to make sure that you deal with social personalities. That's major. That's major for all of this. If you want to come out of this thing good, you have to work with people you can trust, people who are considering the common good of the people involved.
I hear you, man. Listen,
and that's how we're going to come out of it. We're not going to come out of it in many other things.
Well, that's a beautiful thought, and I guess sometimes I'm a little bit selfish because I don't want things to be so hard. I think a lot of people out there don't want them to be so hard, and I'm just going to have to.
Well, they're doing another group of funding right now, and you should get your application in for that loan as well.
Well,
they have grants too.
I got in on the first round for the business, so I can't go double dip again. But
okay.
we could talk about that. Offline, but
it's all really important because everybody needs to survive. To keep the long-term effect to a minimum.
Well, listen, I'm hopeful that things will work out for myself, and I know that a lot of people that aren't listening or that will listen to this are going to be hopeful as well. And I really hope and pray that as best as possible, things turn right side up for many, many people, because I know a lot of people are in this together, and a lot of people are hurting. And you had a lot of great thoughts, and you brought a lot of good, mindset and words of wisdom tonight, and I really appreciate it. You're a good friend. I love you, and I appreciate that you're here tonight, and I always really enjoy talking to you. And you'll be back. We'll talk more. You'll come back on again, because I know you're going to come on many times, actually. It's just one of many, but not a bad first, though.
I appreciate you asking me the questions and good questions and listening to what I have to say. It's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, you listen to me too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know everyone's concerns. I don't have the same concerns as anybody,
Well, it's just about people listening to people having conversations and then identifying with certain parts of that conversation or picking, hey, I'm thinking that, or, you know, I thought that as well too. These guys, or you know, something that they have, you know, affinity for, as you would say, Larry.
Well, the only thing I can say, if we're coming to a close here,
Mhm.
to summate everything, is that I found that there is no opportunity over there. You don't come across an opportunity. You are opportunity. Each individual is the opportunity that they have. There is no opportunity that's brought to you on a silver platter. If somebody is in the right place at the right time to hear the right conversation and then has the right background, he'll make a decision to do something that's perhaps revolutionary, right? Or brilliant or whatever. You take a look at it and go, well, how did Bill Gates know to do blah, 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 right? Well, how did he?
He didn't know. He didn't know exactly.
He didn't know exactly, but he knew there was something there and he was going to be part of it. He was the opportunity. The reason he had that opportunity is because it was him.
It was him, and he was also an extremely, extremely hard worker.
I don't, you know, and that is another part of it.
Yeah.
There,
Well, you and I, you see, you and I, when you and I talk, we'll just, you know, grab one thing and then we'll start layering it and we'll start going on to something else. But I wanted to end on that point, what you were saying before, and I just really want to thank you for being here. And I'll be in touch. We'll talk soon. You be safe, and your friend Gail, you guys both be safe together. And I appreciate you being here, and I'll be in touch. All right.
yeah, sounds great. All right, thanks, Jeff.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.